Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we have another tiny epic game for you. This is Tiny Epic Kingdoms, designed by Scott Alms and published by Gamelyn Games.
This is a 4X game in a box. Of course, you are exploring, you are expanding, you are exploiting, and ultimately hoping to exterminate. Why do I use those four fingers?
I don't know.
I don't either. Don't do gang symbols. This is not this channel. But you're doing a 4X game, and it's a really small box. You are kind of using your cards. You have all your own special factions that have special abilities as you do your research. You're trying to take over the other players. Let me show you how it plays. All right, here is our setup for Tiny Epic Kingdoms. We've got our player mat out here. This actually does not come with the game. This is kind of an add-on thing that you can buy. It normally would look like this, a couple of cards that represent our action selection track as well as our tower building track. But this looks a little cleaner on the board, so we're going to stick with that. Every player is going to get one of those territory cards. There's a whole bunch of them in the box. They all have different configurations. They are double-sided, so you kind of get to choose which side to use. They'll have different forests and fields and mountains. Some of them have ruins on them, cities that can get you extra points. So all different variety from those. You're also going to be dealt a faction card. Again, there's just a ton of factions. They all have cool art on the back, obviously, but on this side, they have a special ability track on the left here. This is our research track. Each one of them is different. So everyone kind of has their own special abilities throughout the game. On your turn, you're going to be given this big old meeple thing here, this castle. This is our action selection pawn. Basically means that you're the active player. You're going to be able to take one of these actions, and you're going to move one of these little shields over there to show that it's been used. So, for instance, there's patrol. We can move our shield over there. Patrol means you can take one of your meeples on your territory, and you can move one of them one space. Something like that. However, every other player also has the option to take that same action. So, for instance, maybe the black character, they move one of their meeples. However, you can, instead of doing what the active person did, you can choose to take resources. When you take resources, basically, for every one of the regions that you occupy, you take a resource for that region. We have our fields there. They're going to provide food for us. We have our mountain ranges, which are going to give us building materials. And we've got forests, which will give us mana, which is what we use to do our research. You cannot occupy water. There's also something called the ruins. Now, the ruins provide wild resources, which is really nice. However, at the end of the game, any meeples still left over in a ruins area do not count towards in-game scoring, and also they're a little bit harder to get out of there. They're harder to move around. You also cannot occupy crags, those rocky areas there. So even you can't even walk through them, so you have to kind of walk around to get to various places. All right, so back to our actions here. If you want to do quest, a quest means you take one of your meeples and actually go to someone else's card. For instance, the blue guy might come over to my card over here. That's not really my card, they're just all various territories. If you wanted to build, you could go there to the build action. And again, everyone gets to do all the actions if they choose to. The higher you get on your building track, the more expensive things get, but also you're going to get more victory points along the side there as well. Basically, for this first one here, it only costs one building material, so we're going to spend it off of our track here. And now we have that level 1 tower built. Similarly, if you wanted to do research, you'd go there, and then you'd spend mana, which is your green resource, for every level that you're going up. So for our first one here, it just costs 1 mana. And now we've unlocked a new special ability. This one says you may patrol to non-adjacent regions on a territory. So for instance, we do our patrol action, we'd have to go to an adjacent one. Now we could go to unadjacent ones, which is really nice. The higher up you go on those research tracks, the better your special abilities gets, and also they're worth more victory points as well. The expand action allows you to basically hire more people. You have to pay however much food based off of how many people you're going to have. So right now you start the game off with 2 people. If you want to add a third meeple on the board, you have to pay 3 food. So we'd pay that third food. We'd add one of our meeples to a spot on the board where we only have 1. Every spot on the board only can hold a maximum of 2 people. There's also the 6th action here called trade, where you can trade in some of your goods. Any number of one good for any number of another good. Maybe you have a whole bunch of mana and you need some food so you can hire somebody, so we can use that trade to swap that out. If you ever patrol or quest to a place where someone else is, for instance, right there we're sharing that mountain area, both players are going to use these D12s here to calculate how much attack they want to use. You have to spend resources. Every mana you spend is worth 2 of the attack value. Every of the building materials, the brick or whatever, that's 1 of the attack values. So for instance, if you spent 2 mana and 1 brick, it'd be worth 5 attack points altogether. So you secretly choose how much you're going to do. Let's say blue's going to do 5, we're just going to do one. We just secretly reveal them and show who won the battle. No matter what you bid, you do have to spend those resources, but then the loser has to retreat. Obviously, there might be some special abilities that trigger based off the characters as well that happens in there, but that's kind of the gist of it. There is, on both of these dies, a white flag. If both of you select the white flag, that means that you agree to peacefully live in that territory, and you're both going to be able to harvest the resources from that area. The end of the game is going to be triggered when either someone has built their highest level of tower, someone has built their highest level of research track, or they've hired all of their meeples. At that point, you're going to finish the round so that all the action abilities have been used, all those shields are in a spot. At that point, you're going to count up all your victory points from all your different places. You're going to count them up from your tower, from your research track. You're going to get meeples based off of, or points based off how many meeples you have, and then some special abilities maybe on your track that gave you some victory points or other things. Some territories have like a capital city, and if you're occupying those at the end of the game, they're worth points as well. So you're going to add up all those points, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. There's also kind of a mini expansion that you can play with. There's all these little tokens, these exploration tokens. You can put them all over the board, all over the different territories, and when someone walks into one of them, you flip it over, see what it is. Maybe you get some resources, maybe you lose some resources to bandits, maybe you get victory points, maybe you get some defense. There's all kinds of different special abilities you can unlock with those different exploration tokens.
One of the things I was actually really impressed with this game was the factions, in the sense that their like magic abilities, the mana when you go up on that, are all vastly different, but still seem really balanced. So they're all doing so many different things in this game. You have the ability and actions to do a lot of different things, but I didn't feel like one was drastically better than the other. And I was really impressed with that because there's a ton of factions in here, right? And so every time we played, I felt like if both of you guys were focusing on that, like if one person was focusing and the other person wasn't, you're going to lose. But if both people were going up around the same time, it felt pretty balanced in the abilities and what you were able to do.
I liked the action selection in this game. Basically, the action that you chose, everyone else takes as well. It felt like a game like maybe like Puerto Rico or Race for the Galaxy, but in those games you get the top version of that action. Everybody else kind of gets a smaller version of this. In this one, everybody gets the same option. In fact, if you are not the active player, you get the option of taking resources as well as instead of taking the selected action. So that gave you some versatility, and you kind of planned for, well, I hope they do a building action because I don't have enough resources for that. So when they do the building action, I'll take resources, or whatever the case is. So I like the action selection. I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, and on the flip side, sometimes I would choose not to do an action because I knew that Ryan could afford it, but if I could do this one, I knew that I could afford it and he couldn't. Right? Because, that's kind of the interaction that's happening. Because everybody's able to take a turn on your turn and you're able to take a turn on their turns, you are just paying attention a little bit more to what's on people's boards based on the actions that are happening. Like, why are they taking that or not that? So I like that there's no downtime in this game, right? So you're always engaged and you're always paying attention to what's happening. And I felt like I was paying attention to what was happening on other people's boards because that would influence which action I took.
I think one of the reasons that's possible is that you can pay attention to everyone's board is because there's not a lot of components out there on the table.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cards that come in the game, a lot of variety within the territories and the factions, but as far as what's on the table at any given time, there's just one territory for every character and a faction for every character, and then the cards for the building track and for the actions. But other than that, there's obviously your player tokens and meeples, but there's not like this big board full of crazy stuff going on. This is a very from a what's on the table at any given time standpoint, very few components.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which I thought that made it very simplified. It was just a streamlined 4X game. All you needed was some meeples and some territories and some factions.
So I do want to say, okay, so here's the thing. The exterminate part of this game, it just wasn't that exciting in a 2-player game.
Yeah.
Like, they had a dummy player and you could go and, take over their territories. But, there's this die in there and...
Why do you talk about me like that? I'm not dumb.
What?
I'm not dumb.
I didn't say you were dumb.
You said call me the dummy character.
No, there's a dummy character. Not you. When we're playing, there's a third dummy character. Oh my gosh, I thought I had actually called him dumb. Guys, yeesh.
Yes, got her.
So anyway, so there's this die and you're supposed to like cover it up to see how many resources that you're going to choose. And in the 2-player game, that just doesn't happen. And in the 2-player game, you can't form alliances, well, because obviously that would break the game. And so it's just like you're missing something in the 2-player game that the game is designed for. The game wants you to play 3 to 4 players. There is also a 5-player variant. Unfortunately, we didn't play that. But the 3-4 player, that's where they want you to interact, and that's where like that action of the game. So we still had a good time like without that, but it's just the 2-player, you're missing that.
Yeah. I will say the artwork in this game, too, wasn't our favorite artwork. We've come to expect some good artwork from Gamelyn Games. And this one, it didn't do it for me, at least. But still, the cards and stuff, there was a lot of variety, and that was fun.
Yeah.
All right, so this was a really neat 4X style game in a really, really, really small package. It had a really, really slim time frame. And, it had, just like I said, very streamlined components and streamlined gameplay. You're engaged the whole time. I thought this was a really neat little game.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun playing it. It was good to see the track to try to, utilize your turns to do something that your opponent couldn't do, so you could utilize it better and to try to plan that out or want them to get certain things so you can do stuff. So I liked how the game had you engaged the whole time and you were paying attention to what was happening when the game would end. It was never really a shock because you knew what people were trying to do, so you yourself could plan for that. So I really liked how this game had that expansive game in such a small package.
All right, you guys, we've been talking about a ton of different Tiny Epic games. This is, I think, we only have one more video that we're going to put out in this series. And then ultimately, next month, we're going to put out our list of ranking every single Tiny Epic game in the whole history of Tiny Epics. So be sure to stay tuned for that. The best way to do that is to turn on your notifications. So that way, when you subscribe and you turn on your notifications, boom, you're getting, hey, Ryan and Bethany just put out a new video. And guess what? It's a top 10 of all of the Tiny Epic games.
Yeah.
As well as all our other fun stuff coming out.
Yeah, you definitely want to do that. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out.
Like I said.
Like Ryan said. And you can also find us on Facebook under Ryan Bethany Board Game Reviews. On Twitter, we're Ryan Bethany 1. And on Instagram, we are Ryan and Bethany.
All right, you guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.